welcome to the 2024 Barnstable Land Trust Annual Meeting. It's really a pleasure to see all of you here. I'm Lee Towns. I'm a very proud member of BLT. I also serve as a land steward, a committee chair, and I'm currently the board of directors president. I always look forward to these annual meetings because it's a great time to get everyone together. It's always fun to meet new members and reconnect with old. I think it's important to start out with that all of you recognize who is on the BLT staff and who is on the Barnstable Land Trust Board. So I'd like to start out by asking every staff member to please stand. I think we have some more people in the other room coming in. Great. Thank you so much. And then now, board members, please stand. We have a good showing today of our board members. Thank you very much. And thank you for all that everyone here does for our organization. So I'm curious, are there any people who've never attended an annual meeting here today? If you could please stand up. Well, what I'd like to ask is that our more seasoned members greet them and introduce yourselves during the time after the business part of our meeting is finished to welcome them into our organization. Today, just to give you an overview of what we normally do in an annual meeting, we'll be voting on the slate of officers and nominating committee for the 2024-2025 board. We will also ask your approval for some changes to the bylaws, and Karen Daly will be introducing those. We'll give an update on finances from Rob Carey, our treasurer, and Janet Milkman, our executive director, will update recently completed land acquisitions and some of the other projects that we're involved in. I'll be awarding the President's Award to Tommy Burgess, and Mark Robinson will award the Founders Award to Dana Horn. Since we last met last July, BLT has been extremely active. We've achieved and accomplished so much of our mission and vision. We have protected some amazing parcels of land, have reached into the community to create partnerships with many other like-minded organizations and individuals. We have become a very visible organization. Because of our extremely dedicated and energetic staff and volunteers, there are several programs offered every week that the community can enjoy for the rest of this year. And I think it's a really impressive and diverse schedule of programs that BLT has put together. When you look to the future, say in 20 years, what do you want the Cape to look like? Much as it is now, or with denser housing, more concrete, more traffic, if that's possible, and rampant pollution in our ponds and oceans. For me, Cape Cod is a magical place that the BLT is helping to preserve. By conserving properties in perpetuity, we are protecting water and air quality, in decreasing stress on our infrastructure, and are providing beautiful places for recreation and enjoyment. If you are interested in volunteering opportunities at BLT, please speak with any of the board members or staff. There are all sorts of ways to become more involved, both indoors and out, that will give you a chance to make a difference in our community. So thank you very much for coming this afternoon. Now I'd like to introduce you to Joe Hawley, who is our chair of the nominating committee.
Make sure they can hear me.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? How's that?
In the back.
Can you hear me okay? Hi, everyone. Joe Hawley, chair of the nominating committee, and I have a little report to make. And we got quite a lineup. So we're gonna start with voting on the nominating committee for the coming year. And headlining this group is Joseph Hawley as chair, Carol Carter, John Curtis, Karen Daly, Richard Fairbanks, Karen Hanesian, and ex officio Lee Towns and Janet Milkman. So that's a pretty good group. Trust me, I'm a banker. So we'll take a, I think we're ready to take a vote. Someone would like to make that nomination? Second? Do we have that? Okay, all in favor? God bless. Good job. All right, another easy one. Officers for Barnstable Land Trust, the coming year. President Lee Towns, Vice President Justine Laharn, Treasurer Robert Carey, another banker. Secretary Clerk Wendy Barker. So we would entertain a motion to vote on that slate.
Okay.
All right, do we hear a second? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? I didn't think so. Okay, good job. How we doing so far? It's a tough job. All right. Next, we have two new board members to elect, to vote in. And the first one is Richard Fairbanks. And as I like to say, Dick, don't take offense, but your rep sheet is in the annual report. I won't say that to Terry Karamanos, who is also a new respected board member. And both these folks have tremendous resumes, as you can read in the report. And they're great people. They're already involved in various committees with Barnstable Land Trust, and we're very excited to have them join the board. So I would accept the motion from the floor to accept these two new board members. All right, we have a second. Great. All in favor? Wow, that was close. Okay, welcome aboard, Dick and Terry. All right. And I think we have to vote the renewing board members, right? So we have board members that are renewing. Ben Canavan for 2027 term, Wendy Barker, 2025, Karen Daly, 2025, and Joseph Hawley, 2025. So do we have a motion to accept those terms for those folks?
No.
All right. And a second, that's time we're getting it. All right. All in favor? Opposed? So we have several, staying, continuing, thank you. Board members, and I'd like them all to stand and just be recognized by the audience, the ones that are renewing. They already stood, but I want you to stand up. All right, there you go, Michael Tone's back there. All right, what else we got? Karen? Yes, yeah, all right, good. These folks do a lot of work, and they're really, it's a really strong board. Very, very proud to be associated with this board. So what are we doing next?
You are handing off to Karen Daly.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I'm
We're
sorry.
doing a little thank you, aren't we? That's right, Janet. Okay, Lee, can you sneak over here? So we have a couple of board members that are retiring. And one, John Curtis, who's been with us for a while, still involved with one or two committees. He's very well known in Mid-Cape area. I think he lives in Tuit. And he's gonna stay with us in on a committee, but he's coming off the board. And the other is a longtime, very active board member, Deb Roman, who was been treasurer for quite a while. She's a great person. Deb, we want you to come up here and get a little recognition.
Deb has always impressed me with her ability to make finances seem simple to those who aren't financially activated. So I really have appreciated her efforts through the years. Thank you. So Deb, we have a little present for you.
And I would just want to add my thanks to Deb. She did a great job. Believe it's nonprofits with the fund accounting, very confusing, even for bankers like me. She did a great job, really. And we really appreciate everything you've done for us, Deb. Thank you. So thanks, Karen. So I think we're going to turn things over to Karen Daly for the bylaws.
Hard to follow Joe Hawley, but I will do my best. So we had copies, there was a grid created for these bylaw proposals. If anyone wants a copy that didn't get one as you registered. Does anyone want a copy as we go through these? We're not gonna go through them in depth, but at least you'll have a copy if you wanna look at the proposals as they're presented. Okay. So there are 7 bylaw changes that have been proposed and have been approved and recommended to this body from the board. The first is just under our purpose statement within the bylaws. It's just a 1-word change. It is substituting the word steward for the word maintain as we talk about the purpose of the land trust. That's the first change. Second change is just a clarification under board officers. The original bylaws had a statement that allowed for more than 1 vice president. This will eliminate it as our tradition is to just elect 1 vice president. It'll eliminate a multiple option. Third change is to amend within 1 section language that reads he or his to S/he, S/his. Or her, his. However that goes, it's still a confusing thing when you talk about language. But it creates consistency across the bylaws. The other sections are all currently up to date, but this 1 section was not revised, so that creates consistency throughout. The 4th proposal is to add a new sentence under the board section to allow electronic board votes. And actually, Massachusetts law requires that any not-for-profit that utilizes electronic voting have it stated within the bylaws, and that was missing from our bylaws. So that will now be part of the bylaws if these changes are approved. And going along with that, yet to be completed is a new policy that will allow us to be clear on when it's appropriate to use electronic votes. So we will work with that as well. The 5th change is to delete the current section under the board that describes selection by the board of a board chairman. It's not something we've ever utilized, doesn't need to be in the bylaws, so that's just a deletion of a section. The 6th change is under executive committee. We didn't have any ratification language for any actions or votes taken by the executive committee between board meetings. Now that language will exist, saying that any action or vote by the executive committee will now be ratified at the next board meeting. And the final change, an easy one, is just to identify our parliamentary authority. It's not currently in our bylaws. It will be Robert's Rule of Order. So I'm going to take these in total and just do 1 vote. Unless someone has a question on any of those proposals. All right. So do I have a motion to approve these proposals as presented? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Oppose? Excellent. All right, that's easy work for me. Thank you. Janet,
You can.
next.
Next is Rob Terry.
Oh, Rob's.
Does anyone know the curse of the banker? Some of the bankers might know this. Curse of the banker is you always somehow become treasurer of the nonprofit. So here I am. Some of you maybe remember me from, I don't know, 5 years ago, I was treasurer. Here I am again. Want to give you just a couple quick minutes, give you kind of a couple updates on what happened in 2023. Overall, if you want to fall asleep from here on out, I'll tell you, we had a good year. Just the highlights I would talk about, for 2023, on the land protection side. We're up almost 100% in projects that we, did this year versus 2022 and land that we protected. For those of you who have been here for a while, what you find is this is a lumpy business. You know, every now and then you'll get a couple big deals and, you know, then there'll be years that will be lighter, and there are years that take many years to get a project done. So I don't look much into that other than that, you know, we're moving forward and continuing to do, protect land. From a membership, we're up almost 20%, over 1,000 members. I think that's a really incredible, you know, number to hit. Revenues. So revenues are up roughly 6% year over year. Our expenses are up 11% year over year. Our delta, you know, at the bottom of at the end of the year, we lost 150,000. Not uncommon for a nonprofit to have a loss. For those of you who are wondering, how did we, you know, carry over that loss, was from cash flow, or cash on hand, excuse me, and then investments that we had. At the end of the year, we had almost 2.7 million in investments. And from a banker's standpoint, you always ask yourself, is this, you know, something you could do sustainable? And just a quick back of the napkin, you're basically withdrawing 5.5% of what the 2023 number was for our investments. So a little high, but not outside of the realm of, it's not like you're taking 15%. Think of your own portfolios. You know, you're not taking a 15% distribution from your portfolios. 5% is not outlandish. Year to date, just kind of as a quick update, this isn't, you know, on here, but we're tracking as expected. We're actually above on the revenue side of things, and our expenses are right in line with where we expect to be. But the big thing to note is we got a huge request, almost $1.7 million for it. So that has brought our investment account from roughly $2 million or $2.6 million to $4.5 million. So that's tremendous for this organization. So going back to my little calculation about the 5.5%, you know, that's just over 3%. And that's probably, you know, there's some financial wizards in here better than I, but they'd tell you that, you know, that's probably a safe withdrawal rate, probably within perpetuity. So just a great overall situation that we're in now. I'd stop, and I don't know if anyone has any questions. Just wants me to move on to the more exciting things. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rob. I'm Janet Milkman. Welcome, everybody. You guys are our team, and you're what makes everything happen here. Some of you have been around have been supporters or volunteers or staff people at BLT for decades, and you're the reason why we can do what we do. So thank you. I want to just recognize a couple of town councilors who made it here tonight. We're really grateful for that. John Crow from Osterville. Is Charlie still here? Charlie Bloom was here. And Chris Clark, thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for everything. A really hard job. I only sit through town council meetings occasionally, and it's, yeah, thank you. So, I also just wanted to say thank you to our staff, because we have an incredibly stellar staff, and Kelly Barber, Kelsey Ellis, Sandra McNulty, Sue Sullivan is out there. Chris Paw is in the back. And Kelly Grant is here. Kelly is our land acquisition specialist. We have her 2 days a week. She works for the compact. And Hannah here, our AmeriCorps service member. And Sandy Perez is also
a really critical part of our staff. She is hopefully on Zoom. She's a COVID victim, along with a few other folks who would have been here tonight. So she's alive. She's alive. She's just not feeling well. I realized that sounded really bad. So I'm gonna just talk a little bit about what we have done this year and what we're looking to do going forward. And we all know the work that we do is important because it helps protect habitat for animals and gives us open space and beauty to support our health, our physical health, our mental health, protects our water supply, protects our bays and estuaries. But I read a piece by Chris Neal, who is at the Woodwell Climate Research Center. He works on climate issues, and he says the most important thing that we can do for climate, in addition to all of these other things, is to basically protect land. So on top of everything else that we do, we are also helping to address one of the critical environmental issues of our time. We face a lot of challenges. You've heard me say before, and a lot of other people too, only 14% of land on Cape Cod is still up for grabs for development or conservation. In Barnstable, that number is a little bit higher. Drinking water quality is at risk. Our bays and estuaries are increasingly impaired by nutrients. We're seeing climate change affect absolutely every aspect of our life, whether it's sea level rise, flooding, crazy storms. And what we're doing is we are protecting land. We are building our capacity to steward our land more effectively. That's with staff, with partners, with other resources. And we are leading in our community. And specifically, we are leading, oh, you know what? I wanted to do something, oh, well, I blew it. We protected this property this year. We closed on it. This is the Wheeler property. It's 10 acres abutting Fuller Farm. And the way we do our work is with conservation-minded landowners. That's the only way we can be successful. So I wanted to recognize Emily Wheeler, who is here tonight, and whose family, I think applause is really glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here, Emily. This is an amazing property for a lot of reasons. And the family is an amazing family. The family has an incredible conservation legacy with holly trees and with other nursery plants. And the property really reflects that. And you'll be able to see it come the fall. It also is a connector between Fuller Farm and the airfield. This up here is actually the airfield. This is the Wheeler property, and this is Fuller Farm here. So this provides a wonderful contiguous green connection all the way up to West Barnstable Conservation Area, all the way up to Route 6. In addition, it protects Middle Pond, and Middle Pond is the spawning ground for the herring that come up through the Marston's Mills River, and also the home of rare species and a whole bunch of turtles. So it's important for that reason, and it's also important because it has a house on it. This is the first property that we've bought with a residential building on it, and it's going to house our staff and property caretakers going forward. So it's a leap for us to buy a property with a house on it, and it is an incredible asset to help us recruit and retain staff who face the housing issues that all of us face here. So it's an amazing gift to have been able to do this project. We're gonna have a trail on the property. It will connect from the Fuller Farm Trail, so you'll be able to park at Fuller Farm, walk down the trail, walk through the Wheeler property and back, and be a really nice connection. In addition to Wheeler, we were gifted a property on Route 130 in Katuitt by Bob Fraser, who had put a CR on it about 17 years ago. And again, his goal was to keep the property, which abuts his family's home, the same forever. It also abuts a pond and has really high conservation value. But again, a conservation-minded owner who really gave an incredible gift over many years to Barnstable Land Trust. And that property, which is about 4 acres, is very close to our project, which is underway right now, pipeline project called Santuit Woodlands, which is about 6 acres on Route 28, and it abuts our service property, another 6 acres. It's really important because it is in the water supply protection area for the Katuitt Water District. And it has a vernal pool on it, and it abuts our existing property, so we'll be able to put another trail on it. And for this project, for the Wheeler project, we worked very closely with the town of Barnstable, specifically Lindsay Council and the CPA, and none of this happens without them, really. The Wheeler project was funded half with public money, same with this project, assuming we get the state grant that we're going for, but I really want to recognize the town elected officials and Lindsay especially for helping with all of this work. None of this happens without Mark Robinson either, and he's here in the audience too, so thank you, Mark. I wanted to talk a little bit about golf courses. So this one is familiar to you all if you've been following our work for the past 4 years now, believe it or not. So Twin Brooks 2.0, I think, has a very optimistic outcome, I'm hoping. Many of you know that the proposed developer pulled out in December. The property went on the market again. It was scooped up by the Riverview School, which is a school for developmentally challenged kids. They have a beautiful campus in Sandwich, and they are looking for a spot for programming for their kids once they graduate. So once they're 22, they need a place to have a community. And these are people who are integrated in the community in many ways. They live in groups, but independently. They work. A lot of them are employed by Cape Cod Hospital, by Stop and Shop, but they need more community support like they have at the school. So the vision of the school is to use some of this site for programming, but as you know, it's a huge site and about half of it is not developable. So we have been talking to them since before they closed on it, working with them, with the owner of the Resort and Conference Center, with Save Twin Brooks, who's here tonight too, and thank you, because without you, we wouldn't be in this position that we are today. So I am hopeful that there is a vision that will allow us to provide some public open space on the property for the community. And ideally also deal with, some of the stream issues, which I know is the focus of Save Twin Brooks and is, an enormous, water quality issue for Keys Beach, which is at the bottom of this property. So I'm hoping to have more to report on that soon. I'm also hoping to have more to report on a golf course in Katuitt, which we have been working on for quite a while now, and hope that comes to a conclusion soon. Land stewardship is more and more a focus of what we do. We take care of 1,250 acres of land, either that we hold a CR on and we have to monitor, or that we have to manage directly. We do that with 50+ volunteers, many of whom are in this room today, who have become an increasingly powerful and independent source for us. We now have a mowing team, we have a burn team. They operate independently, and they add incredible amounts to our ability to do our work. We're also focusing more on improving the conservation value of our land. So we're not just buying land and keeping it and letting it do what it wants. If there are a lot of invasives on it and we can remove them and we can replace them with natives, we are doing that. If there is salt marsh that needs attention, we are working on that. In every way that we can, as we are doing our land management plans for all these properties, we're trying to figure out how to make the natural ecosystem stronger. We have done a huge amount, and I credit Kelly Barber with a lot of this, and Lee Towns, who's been chairing our land stewardship committee. The number of projects that we do on our properties has gone up incredibly. The number of sites that we worked on, the number of volunteers, and these are volunteers that show up every week. This is not just someone who comes a couple times a year. They are incredibly dedicated, and they socialize together too. They've become really a wonderful team. And AmeriCorps projects too. So all of this increased work has led to a need for us to increase our capacity and staff, and we are hiring, starting in October, a 3/4 time land steward technician. So you will meet her at the next annual meeting, and that will free up some of Kelly's time to do some more leadership work and to support some of our peer organizations. And another thing that we're interested in as part of this sort of conservation value enhancement is making sure that everyone who wants to visit our properties is welcome there by making them all access. And so our first all access trail, the permitting is just beginning for the trail behind our office at Pokerel Sanctuary. We're also hoping for a new dock there too. We'll see if that gets passed. But in any case, we'll have a beautiful trail that will be accessible by wheelchairs and walkers and such. I'm gonna hold it. All right. So we've made incredible strides with engaging young people this year, thanks to Sue's work and Kelsey's work and Kelly's work. We have been in the schools at every level, the high school in multiple ways, the intermediate school and the elementary schools. We have a summer intern here from Cape Cod Academy. Thank you, Megan. And summer volunteers taking drone pictures like the one of the Wheeler property that you just saw. Joining our Weeding Wednesdays and our First Fridays at Fuller Farm. So if you know any young people who are looking for something to do, we can help. And they're incredibly energetic and wonderful, wonderful additions. And we're also doing a lot with families. Sue, if you don't know her, Sue Sullivan is a force for nature. Truly, she has built our programming up incredibly. So maybe we were doing 20 or 30 programs a year. Now, this year we'll have over 100. We are connecting people on the land. We are connecting people with the land in a bunch of different ways. Our first day hikes, Earth Month, Hike Barnstable, Earth Connections, and a really exciting program in September, Climate Conversations, which is going to culminate in this really cool fish flag program, Ask Sue About It, in Hyannis, that will show the impact of sea level rise over time. And we're doing that with, I think Megan's going to recruit some high schoolers for us to help with that installation. That's going to be in Hazelton Park. Sue, Kelsey Kelly, all the staff have helped us expand our partnerships. And the reason that is so important is that it helps us build our connections in the community. It introduces us to new audiences, increases our base of support, opens up new funding opportunities, helps us diversify the kinds of programs we offer, and provides connections beyond our traditional base, helps us save more land and take care of it better in the end. This year, we have partners that are environmental and nature-based, government, local businesses, culture and the art, and community organizations. The libraries are our best partners in every village, and schools and environmental educational organizations. We're also doing more to connect with our elected officials at every level. We hosted a legislative day at Fuller Farm in May. We had elected officials from the local, from the towns, from the state, and from the federal, our congressional representatives and senators. We're all there, and a whole bunch of land trusts as well, in order to make sure that they understand, our elected officials understand how important their support is and where their money is going. And it was an incredible day. We had the same thing last year. I think this is going to be an annual thing, and hopefully really build these relationships, which are so important to all of us. We also hosted lots of organizations at the barn and at our office, Cape Cod Young Professionals, the Chamber, our Leadership Council. So we are becoming a great venue for all of our partner peer organizations as well. Let's see, do I have one more thing? No. We are doing a ton of research on outreach on social media as well. And I have a little request of you at the end of the meeting. So after Dana gives his short speech, where I have a little request for you that's going to help us with our social media. So stay tuned for that. And this Friday, we're going to be on TV at Hazelton Park and Hyannis. Channel 25 is doing one of their zip trips. So we're going to tell the world what the wild side of the wild natural side of Barnstable is. So just to mention how important you all are, we we have had a really big increase in numbers, and some of the numbers that Rob gave you. And the work that we're doing, on the land and the number of volunteers are all supported by our increase in membership, our increase in donations, and increase in member support for our land communities. You all make a huge difference, and please tell your friends who are also members that they are making a huge difference. This is a team effort, again, can't say it enough, and we really need you. So thank you for paying attention, and thank you for putting us in your will. Rob stole my thunder, yeah. This bequest was a huge deal for us, as you can imagine. And these things they do fall out of the sky. I know Jackie had that happen, Jackie Barton, many years ago, which is why we were able to, do what we did back then and have a really good set of investments. This bequest came from Sally Neubauer, whose family lived in Katuitt for a long time. And it gave us the chance to launch our new Legacy Circle Giving program. So Kelsey is the person to talk to about that. If you want to leave a legacy that will live on forever. So I think that's it for me. And I'm going to turn it over to the really fun part of the program where we get to honor some really important people. And the first person is Lee. I think you're no.
The program. It's the Founders Award.
Oh, founders. Okay. Mark, would you like to come up and do the Founders Award? Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Before I roast it, what I would like to do is this group is varying the lead. The lead is that Janet Milton is just elected president of the Massachusetts Land Trust Coalition. I've been involved with the statewide coalition of land trusts since it started in 1990. And formerly served as the treasurer. The Cape has always provided leadership for the statewide group. And it's culminated now with Janet becoming the board president. The Mass Land Trust Coalition provides advocacy for land trust, land conservation. It's our voice in the State House, our liaison with state agencies. A lot of good training that goes on. I'm really looking forward to Janet's leadership for us. So congratulations. It's fun to give an award to a friend. Unfortunately, Dana's getting it tonight. But we get along pretty well. He's a cat person, I'm a dog person, but we make it work somehow. And I'm really glad to see a lot of his friends and colleagues are here, including Barry Pastor is here with Dee and his wife, and Barry worked with Dana at the register, as you'll hear about a little bit about that. But the Founders Award is really to honor somebody who inspires others to do something for the environment. And so whether it's a politician who's an inspirational figure, boy, wouldn't we like some of those? Or just somebody from their passionate work inspires others. But sometimes it's pushing from behind. It's cheerleading. It's inspiring people through other means. And Dana, to me, is the perfect example of that, of leading by example through his writing. When Dana turned 50, there was a big birthday party for him at the Alan Merchant at Hyannis. And it was one of the most striking things I've ever heard. He got up and said a few syllables. He's not going to say as much tonight. But he said, I'm so glad to see so many friends here. And you know, at my age of 50, well, he's more than that now. You know, you can always make new friends, but you can't make any more old friends. And it's so good for him to see a lot of his old friends here tonight. Dana has been with the Barnstable Land Trust since the beginning, cheered on editorially, as well as serving on the board, taking their newsletter, the Barnstable Land Trust newsletter, to its peak of perfection, as the editor for that. So just a little bit about Dana. He's actually been involved in the Cape since the 1940s. I don't know how old he is, but he claims to have gone to elementary school in Osterville, and summered here and took up sailing with his uncle and in Nantucket Sound on the great Dr. Pick, which was his boat for a long time, sailing out of Osterville. And so he knows his way around. Knows where Bell 1 and Bell 8, what's the difference between those. And his uncle always told him, what was the bearing, 330 to get back into the harbor? So he has that imprinted in his memory. Dana graduated from the University of Maryland, and he came to the Cape in 1970 and immediately got involved covering local news for the Mid-Cape newspapers, including Barnstable Patriot. And then he became the editor and co-owner with Barry Pastor of the Register. The long lamented Register. Does anybody remember the Register newspaper covered 3 times in the Mid-Cape? Yeah, well, it was a real force of nature, and a force for nature, because Dana recruited an immense bullpen of reporters to dig into what was going on with this rampant development of Cape Cod. Shoddy developers like Bradgate coming down from New Hampshire trying to build 90 houses behind the courthouse in Barnstable Village. And people like Cynthia Cole, who's here tonight, helped to stop that at town meeting by buying it. And it was the peak of the development boom in the 1980s. I think it was July 18th, 1986 is actually the press of the development boom there. But in Barnstable, we were pouring 3 new concrete foundations per day, over 1,000 building permits in 1986. So it was that type of activity which was causing the anxiety of the populace to do something and preserve open space. It's one of the ways that we responded to that. And it was Dana's passion to get the citizens, and he had a perch to encourage citizens to get involved, go to town meeting, vote with their money to save open space. And he was known for several things at the Register. One was his weekly column, The Sensibility Gap, and that often peeled back the shenanigans going on in the town halls in the Mid-Cape. And he skewered shoddy developments, and this went on for years, many years, in the 1980s particularly. But he might also wax lyrical about the enormous turtle, or was it a turtle, that gave the name Monster Pond in the small wetland behind his house. He also mentored a lot of cub reporters from away, one of them, like Isaac Rosen here. Isaac told me one time that he didn't want to go in the woods with me because he was at 2 with nature. And yet here he is today, one of our great advocates, getting involved with the land bank, getting the land bank, Susan Nickerson, the goddess, godmother of Cape Cod Land Bank, at the Association Preserve Cape Cod. So these are all of Dana's coterie. But he was the spiritual guide at the Register from his perch as the editor-in-chief. One of the things he did was introduce Bob Finch to Cape Cod readers. And Bob Finch is known for many of his books on nature essays. And Bob Finch preaches the sanctity of not just nature, but man in nature. And it was really Dana who introduced him. Dana told his staff, don't ever edit Bob Finch's work. It appears in our newspaper column. And actually Dana gave Bob Finch an award 2 years ago at the Compact Singing meeting. And Dana said, we'll never know how much Bob's writing influenced, even motivated town by town preservation efforts. or the sudden founding of land trusts, or even the landowners who use the trust to save Cape Cod. We'll never know, but Bob, your wonderful writing sure didn't hurt. And so much the same could be said for Cape Cod. Thank you. As making his way up here, are there any comments from the floor? No, I'm sorry. Well, then,
I don't recognize.
take that for later.
You recognize me because I was. Is this because, it's the only shirt I have? Other than t-shirts. I really, Mark is, your check is the mail on that. I don't recognize the man in many respects that he talked about, yes. And there's not much more I want to say about me, because the only thing I really can add to this is I'd like to say a short thing about the period 1970 to 1990. It was 20 years, 1970s and 80s. Because that's, in my opinion, the only reason I have any right to stand up here with you guys. This was, as we all know, there's that better. This is an extremely explosive, the late 60s into the 70s became an extremely explosive growth period. We all know that. And when I was a first candidate working the newspapers on the Cape, and really in 1970, I think it was, I went into the basement of town hall to introduce myself to people. And I went into found the Conservation Commission office, which was down in a sub basement in a room that looked like a work room shed, and in there were two women poring over documents and opening books and poring over things. And one was Judy DeRocher, who many of you know, who in fact got this award, this Founders Award from Barnstable Land Trust some time ago. We lost her this winter, unfortunately, she died, and it's a big loss to us. So wonderful person. But I said to her, I introduced myself, and I said, "What are you guys doing?" And she said, "We're trying to learn what we can do in this town about conservation, because we are really behind the 8 ball. It's growing fast. We're in for a really heavy growth period." And she was giving herself, these are not exact words, but basically was saying, I'm taking a graduate course on how to find out what we can do, what are the rules, what powers do we have? Because she said, we're very, very unprepared for this work. And if I went to the other departments, planning department, the police departments, the school departments, they all have the same message, which is we are really not ready for this. And so the towns had to really work hard and immediately to make things happen. Won't get into police and schools, but we'll stay with conservation. I want to just mention two things. Barnstable was behind the 8 ball with the rest of the towns on Cape Cod in 1970, in the 70s and into the 80s. But there were two things that were really in the towns and in the Cape's favor. One was that we had a population here, which the resident population, which loved the Cape, had been conserving, had been doing their job to protect the Cape over the years. Many of them for generations. And then we had all these newcomers coming in, right? Thousands across the Cape. And these people who normally might collide with the old timers over the issues on the Cape, they basically didn't, because they were coming here for the same reason that people were here. In other words, they weren't coming for better jobs or lower property values or urban amenities. They were coming here because they had fallen in love with Cape Cod themselves. So even though they were part of the problem, suddenly the population of the Cape, the constituency of citizens on the Cape, was growing with people that also cared very much about the Cape. It's very important because so much energy was needed of them and was provided by them to do the various things that needed to be done for the next 20 years. It's my contention that the 70s and 80s, if we had not been able to do what we did, the communities had not been able to do what they did in the 70s and 80s, we would be in a lot worse shape today than we are. Beyond 1990 on, we was a subject for another day. The other thing that the Cape had, and this is what I don't think a lot of people realize or know, and I know only because I was in the journalism profession, is that the Cape had a very unique richness of media. For a peninsula our size and of a funny shaped peninsula, we had a lot of journalism going on, a lot of good journalism going on. We had a daily newspaper, which was excellent. We had a bunch of weeklies, because that was my interest. And they were all really well run, very committed newspapers, very old in most cases, starting in the 1800s. Except for the Cape Codder, which started in 1946, I think. But you had the Falmouth Enterprise, you had the Register in the Mid-Cape, you had the Cape Codder down around the elbow in the Cape, and then outside Advocate, there were some other papers scattered around, but those were the main reader-supported. That's an important concept, reader-supported. People were paying for these newspapers, and they trusted them, because the papers had been around a long time. They were really established in the community, and they were read. And meanwhile, all the editors of those newspapers also felt we're in for a ride here, and we need to really focus journalism across the board on the growth issues, which of course is conservation as well as a lot of other things. And I knew all these editors, Jack Huff up at the Falmouth Enterprise, Bill Breisky at the Cape Cod Times was an excellent editor. Now Hobbs at the Cape Codder, Wade Steele to a certain extent at the Sun Advocate. These individuals were all like-minded, along with the communities, that we needed to devote a good amount of the newspaper, the actual space in the newspaper, to stories about growth. Watching ad radios and work to, John Miller's here. He was with QRC, which was certainly the major leading news radio station. So we had a lot of media. People don't, and you may say, well, so what? That was unusual. And the fact that we had that, in addition to a group of people, a constituency that were all like-minded, meant that we got over 20 years, we got a lot of writing done. And newspapers didn't do anything other than publicize these things and allow people to connect to the issues. We didn't make anything happen, obviously, except through influence. And the editorial pages of all these newspapers could have been swapped out. I mean, we all were saying the same thing when it came to, as Mark mentioned, should we buy this property? Should we increase the powers of the Conservation Commission, wetlands bylaws, on and on, all kinds of stuff. The papers really rallied around. And so from my perspective, this award isn't, yes, okay, he said very nice things about me, but the real work that was done by a group of a lot of journalists on Cape Cod, including the staffs, from which I was, Isaac has been mentioned. He worked with me. Dan Hamilton is back there somewhere. There he is. And Barry, of course, my colleague at the Register there. We all, in some ways, should be up here talking, because that's what that was our contribution to helping out, helping preserve Cape Cod. And I think we did a good job. Well, I'm going to do it, but I don't blame him. I'm going to hand over the microphone now. And it's almost impossible not to point out the obvious, which is we don't have any newspapers. And that's a tragedy.
Yeah. Quick picture.
Should I change my shirt?
Your hair looks better.
Okay, and Lee, would you like to come up and do the next award? And for those of you, yeah, and this is the last item. So
All right, it's really my pleasure to give the President's Award to Tommy Burgess. The President's Award recognizes people who have been instrumental in working for the BLT for many years. And indeed, Tommy fits that perfectly. The story that is written about Tommy in your programs is really, really fun to read. He's a remarkable man who has done all sorts of things, and is really a pleasure to know and to spend time with. He has been a volunteer for the BLT since 2004. He's been a volunteer since he's volunteered as a land steward. Initially, he helped out at places like Bell Farm, Ropes Field, Prince Ave, Prince Cove, and Eagle Pond. And he also worked on the board and served as secretary from 2007 to 2010. More recently, he continues to do land stewarding. He joins the BLT Land Steward Volunteer Group for their Tuesday morning projects very often. He and his wife, Peter, also lead a group weeding the front gardens or around the gardens of the Barnstable Land Trust office on Route 6A. He lives close by Lowell Park and regularly walks there, keeping track of trails and garbage. He is a longtime member of the Land Stewardship Committee and is secretary for us, turning out the best minutes I've ever seen in my life. Very often with words I need to look up, and I have a very good grasp of English. So the Barnstable Land Trust really has high regard and respect for Tommy, as do I, and appreciate the many, many years of service he's given to our organization. So Tommy, would you please come forward?
Thank you, John. And I said one word.
Yeah.
I just wanna say a couple of thank yous, because way back, I was going into the post office in Patuit. And Bill Keto, who was a long time volunteer for the Mayor Biden Land Trust and then for the Barnstable Trust, stopped me and said, I had been working for him on the bond, and he stopped me and said, would I like to be on the, would I accept being on the BLT board? And I said, well, I guess so. Enjoy it. And that began really my close association with the BLT. And also like to thank Joe Hall, who interviewed me at the Patuit Grocers. Sometime, as you can understand, repartee at this meeting. And he got me out of the board and all that, from the. So, thank you very much to the Barnstable Land Trust. I encourage everyone to go out and talk to people, to encourage them to volunteer. Working outside, working inside with people, it makes you, well, I was a teacher, so it makes me feel like I'm continuing my career.